business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the pod.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal, every decision, every day. Today's guest, boy, is he going to light you up. I spent 10 minutes or more with this guy. I love him already. I haven't even done a podcast yet. It's going to be a fabulous podcast. But you'll also be motivated. He's also going to challenge you. And more importantly, he's going to have you walk away with tools that inspire action both in your life and the lives of others. Make that impact. And before we dive in, here's your homework, audience. I'm going to get courageous, so send it in. How are you going to serve yourself and serve others today? Make that impact today. Doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. Let's discover how servant leadership in business can create ripple effects that last far beyond the bottom line. Quick shout out to my sponsor, Epic Impact, the only universal, emotionally resonant messaging framework that works anywhere for any audience. This 4-step system transformed how I pitch, post, and podcast. I engage, persuade, and inspire, and close. I use it daily, and it works incredibly. Grab your free trial at epicimpact.ai with promo code Steve to start inspiring action today. Quick shout out from the bottom of my heart. We just hit top 6 in small business marketing. So my guests, including my guests today and you audience, we're impacting people. Let's continue doing that. With that being said, I'm going to jump right in because this guy's a rock star. Jason, welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Humanizing AI. Big buzzword. You know, there's two sides of that fence. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that AI is going to be the most revolutionary thing that anyone will ever feel. But when I talk about AI, I always start off by talking about the 5 biggest companies in the world. And that's your NVIDIA, that's Amazon, that's Apple, that's Google or Alphabet. And when you think of those companies, all of those companies did not exist 50, 51 years ago, which is crazy to think of. And each of those companies is directly tied to some form of wave that's happened in the technology world over the last 50 years. The internet, personal computers, amplification, and mobile apps. And we're all saying that AI is going to be bigger than that. And so when I think about the impact that this is going to have on us as humans, this is going to be more impactful than personal computers, than your spell check, than your cell phone, than anything that I think that we've even perceived or have thought of before this. And when I say that, I also want to prefix it by saying that that we're in the AOL days of AI. That's how early it is. This is the time before the term, it's like talking about the internet before the term e-commerce has been coined. And so not only is this going to be such a human impact to how we do things, I don't think that we know what it's going to look like in the next 5, 10, 20 years. It's like talking about the future of cell phones to somebody who's still on dial-up. They just can't imagine what's possible or where we're going to go.
Yeah, you know, Gary Vee said on a podcast I was listening that AI, he loves AI. He said, what it's going to do is give us more time to serve other people.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm a huge Star Trek nerd. I love all Star Trek stuff. And one of the core concepts of this future world is a world where people don't really have to work and that they're focused on things that are their passion. I think that this opens up the opportunity for you to spend more time doing things that are important and make a difference. So I think that it's going to change the way that we think. There are a lot of things that maybe robotics and AI will be able to do for us, but also as it does these things for us, it may give us the ability to spend more time doing other things, or maybe bring back things like crocheting, something that's from the hand, that's more human, that is going to feel like you want that more. It's going to open up different ways that we look and look at things, different opportunities.
It's a perfect example why AI is going to be great right there. Go back to your passionate, whatever you want to do, golf or whatever, and still make the money to pay your bills and so on and so forth. You know, 1,000 years, they didn't have a pad and paper. They didn't have an iPad, definitely. They wrote on stone. Well, look what we're doing today. And I love that. Well, what I love too is your book, The AI Evolution. We kind of started talking about it. I want to jump in. What was the strategy, the thought process of writing this and the mission?
The goal was to help others. As I spent about 6 months traveling and speaking at a lot of different events throughout the United States, and as I did that and talked to people about their fears on AI, but also the places that they were struggling to figure out how to use it in their personal lives and their businesses, there were certain things that I felt myself saying over and over again. And at a point, it's like this should probably be in a book. And so I said, you know what? Maybe I should write this book. So the book is targeted to what I call a chief AI officer, but also it's targeted to businesses and individuals who just want to understand the problem, the possibility, and how to get to a place where you can take advantage of it. I'm a tech guy. I'm a software developer, but I tried to make sure that I wrote this book with the idea of making it accessible to anyone.
Yeah, and simple. So yeah, you guys engineers can make it hard to read stuff sometimes. I work with
Yes,
some
we can.
engineers, which is a compliment because that's what you're supposed to do. What's
Mhm.
one thing, favorite part of the book? And it might be hard because you probably love the whole book. But is there any favorite part of the book that you can share with us?
That's a good question. The I think the place that's my favorite is this idea of vibe teams that I wrote a good bit about, and this idea of vibe teams is the idea that you don't need as many people to build or do things as you may have before. So take a marketing team that was 10 or 20 folks. Well, suddenly, and that team working with AI agents or AI applications can do the work of 50 or 100. And this is empowering small teams. Sam Altman said this in an interview, and I think that this kind of resonates in how big of a deal this is. He believes that we're within the next 5 or 10 years that we'll have $1 billion one-person company just because that person will be empowered to use AI tools and be able to do so much without necessarily needing as many others working with them. And I think that that sounds frightening, but that's the trend that's been going on for a long time. If you think of someone like Justin Bieber, what made it amazing is he could go and put a music video or record music and put it on YouTube and do it without the cost of a studio. And reducing the costs and the to build things means that it's opening the door and opportunities for a lot of ideas that never make it past go to suddenly get there. And that's the part that gets me excited. The thing that I also think is interesting about this is that this is an entirely different way of thinking. And you're seeing this with layoffs now. All of the companies that are leading in layoffs are also the top five most valuable companies that I talked about earlier. And that's a big deal because they're in the forefront of AI. They're seeing the impacts of this scaling and the need for small teams, and they're all saying this. They're saying that we need to get rid of our middle management layer. We need to rethink what we teach MBAs about organizational layout and development, and we need to come at this in a different way. And so Vibe Teams is kind of my thesis and pitch for it. I really want to write more about it, but it's asked the question, what does the future of teams look like across corporate America?
I love that because I always say people worry about layoffs and stuff. Yeah, they're a problem, but if you're a great employee, you're not going to get laid off. If
Mhm.
you're smart on AI and that's what they do, these five companies, they're going to probably want to keep you, the ones that know nothing about AI. So I want to add that because people hear that go, oh my God, now companies are laying everybody off. Be a great employee. That won't be a problem.
Steve, not only do I agree with that, I'll add to it that the thing about AI, that scaling thing that I told you that said, it
Mhm.
scales a human. You can do 10, 100 times the work. But what it also does is it proves that being a SME, a subject matter expert, is so important. Because to get that scale, the knowledge that you have of how to do something is what's important. AI still hallucinates. It's like having a junior engineer or a junior, producer who's there working with you to help you do tasks. But you still need that 10,000 hours in the air or whatever it is to work with that junior person and give that person instruction to help scale you. And that's the part that gets lost where we're seeing the struggle right now in AI is not with folks who have been doing this for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That knowledge means that they are, by using AI, scaling and being better at their jobs. Places where the struggle is for those who are fresh and coming out of college and are not used to this. They haven't gained their 10,000 hours. It's maybe the first time where, that you can say in the workforce, being old might be a true benefit. So,
Amen to a
there you go.
64-year-old right here.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah,
We need you
retirement.
now.
Yeah, and it's cool, interesting and cool that retirement age will push back. I'm not talking about
Mhm.
Social Security, but I'm saying people are going to work because they're able to do this AI. You're just brilliant, man. This audience, get this book. I'm buying it. After I get off this show, I'm buying it. So follow my lead. We'll get how to get that later. But I'm interested to know, you have over 20 years experience in tech. How's that helped you get into where you are today?
Everything, the thing that I think is important about tech, or that I've learned being in technology, is how to recreate yourself constantly. So I like to say that there are software languages that I've spent more than a decade learning that no longer exist today. And that's a
Mm.
constant thing. The One of my favorite like examples of how fast tech is I remember when the iPhone App Store was released, right? This is 2007, 2009. And jobs started popping up asking for 10 to 15 years of experience developing apps on the iPhone. No one knew how to do it except for the people who built the thing. And that's the world that technologists live in. You know, do you know how to build AI? No, no one does. Do you know how to build the XR and VR systems of the future? No, no one really does. And that's the place that I feel that I've lived over the last 20 years. I'm just there to help build some of the first web applications and websites, and then saw the changes with mobile apps and desktop apps. And so this feels natural to be in a state of disruption. And I think that helps folks who are in a similar space to not necessarily be as afraid, because I'm used to my job becoming obsolete. And I'm used to thinking, all right, how do I learn the next thing and the next skill?
Pivoting. Businesses need to pivot, and COVID taught us that. That is exactly what you're saying. Love that. And you're not complaining about it. You have no complaint in your voice. It's like, okay, it's obsolete. I got to find something else to do. And God, this is brilliant. The other brilliant thing I found out, it's blowing me away when I read this. You blended AI with classical music. Audience, it blew, my head's blown up. It came back, of course. I'm here, but tell us about that scenario.
This is possibly one of the best things that I've ever done in my life, except for my kids, if they're listening. You all, but this is like number four on the list. All right, but we did an event called AI in A minor with the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and this was early on in the AI days. And our question was, could we take music in the style of Philip Glass and Mozart and compose original AI music? And so we did this. We composed these songs, and I mean, it was just fun and a lot of work also, playing to figure out what was possible. We tried doing things like taking Taylor Swift songs and then seeing if we could turn that into like symphonic music. And ultimately we created these two new pieces of music that had a feel and a style. And we brought on a brass quintet and a string quartet from the BSO. We talked about how we did it, and we had them play original Mozart and then play the AI generated music afterwards. And it was interesting because when we were finished, we brought the musicians on to have a panel conversation and talk about like what it felt like playing the music and the differences. And what makes classical music very different from modern music is that modern music is kind of predictable. It has a hook, and then it's like music and it's a hook, and it's the way that it's structured. Classical music has a story, and the way that it moves is different. And so one of the things that we were able to tell is that modern music, like the recordings that were used to train a lot of these models, ultimately made it harder to produce classical music that told a story. There's also things about the way that these composers approach this music. There's a soul to it, like a heart to it, that the robots didn't understand. It could predict or create something that was similar in structure and tone, but didn't have like the ups and downs to tell the story and give the feeling of what the music was supposed to mean. And it just kind of made you wonder, or start to think like, is there something more to this that humans bring to the table that AI, at least right now in its current form, is not capable of? Like, it's really good at mimicking, but that creation, that heart, that soul, maybe not.
What an incredible project. And my head's spinning like, oh, that's crazy. But what you just taught me, an audience, I'm going to reiterate that, is AI not only does it do create, it teaches us stuff, what the right
Oh
way to do
yes.
something wrong, which I didn't even think about. That's a powerful tool right there.
You said this earlier, Steve, that there's this fear, but I truly believe that AI is the great equalizer. And if you put everything and equalize everything in a way that there's still things that make people, projects, and things different. If you can generate the same song there's still something that makes something else stand out, that makes you want to listen to a certain piece of music other than over something else. And trying to get to that, that's a different thing. So here's a perfect example. I think that sometimes we define ourselves with the wrong words. So you may say that you're a writer or you're an author. Maybe you're actually a great storyteller. Or, you're not necessarily, it's not about the words that you're putting on paper, it's the story that you're crafting. If you're a person who writes for, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or whatever, it may not be the writing that's important, but your reporting that's really important. It's the ability to go do the in-depth work and the research and the interviews that brings it together. But the actual words on paper may not be as important. And so you start to think, what is the actual thing that is my job? And am I putting too much focus on the part that is the piece that no one it's sometimes people do care about, but it's like saying it the wrong way. Are you a videographer? Are you a storyteller? Are you a musician? Or are what are you? And I keep thinking that it's important to challenge people and think what I always hear. Everyone has said this, and I'm sure you've said this yourself, that I wish I could take my time away from X to focus it on Y, because Y is what I know is important. And suddenly you have a tool that says they can do X in abundance. And now the question is, what does Y really look like? And is that a place that now you can tell great stories and not have to worry about writing 500 pages? Can you tell more stories? Can you do more? Can you put more time into the thought process of your character and your character development? And that's where we are. And I think that's what you have to continue to think about is, what does this unlock?
Yeah, you know what's crazy is that's how my podcast started. I didn't know when it come in. It's changed and become because of AI and things. So what you're saying is we're going to have the stuff we don't want to do taken care of, and then we look at the stuff we want to do and see what is right, videographer or storytelling. That is a game changer for people because then it changes
Mhm.
purpose and why.
So
Which
how many, yeah.
right? Oh my
Oh, how
god!
many, how many, how many directors, just given like talking about music and music creation, you needed a studio and studio time and this large system in order to produce music. And then that gradually went away and it opened the doors for music in a way that has maybe it hasn't been the best in terms of revenue, but has opened up the accessibility to music in a way that was just never possible before. We're about to start seeing that same thing happen in movies and in television. We're seeing a place now where AI is opening a door for people with amazing stories to be able to use AI to tell those stories and create videos of those things in a way that was cost prohibitive before. It's going to be interesting. Maybe this means an abundance of what people call AI slop, or maybe this means that it opens up the door to some amazing, amazing things that just weren't before impossible. You may see I'm a tech optimist here, so
Yeah, I love it. So am I. I'm with you. Much older, but I'm with you. Well, maybe a little bit older. Doesn't matter. So let's flip to this then. We talked about humanizing. People are scared, losing jobs, taking humans away. What is one or two misconceptions you've heard for all this that you've been doing that you can quell for us with AI?
it's I think it's the part about losing jobs. And I want to be clear, there are jobs that are going to be lost and are going to go away. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but this is not a thing that hasn't happened before. And it's generally ends with the creation of things that we didn't know were possible for. The number of jobs that were created in those last 50 years of disruption from those companies because of the person to computer, the internet, have created jobs that who knew that you would have a social media manager, right? Like these are things that just weren't possible because the technology didn't exist. And that's going to happen again. But at the same time, maybe the printing press isn't important anymore, right? Maybe there are other parts of it that go away. Just like the internet has historically gotten rid of travel agents. But travel is a different thing, and it did create a series of jobs around, e-commerce and travel websites and booking systems and agents on the opposite side. So the thing I think that is important to say is it, are you willing and are you capable of recreating yourself or redefining what it is that you do? And if that's the case, I believe that there are lots of different opportunities. It's just that some of them we may not know. Um,
Yeah.
it's is a very frightening and exciting time because this is again a place where you can stare right at it and you can look at transformation and see that there's a gigantic wave of change that's going to be bigger again than the personal computer or the internet. And you can either drag your feet and try your best to keep that change from happening, or you can, put up the sail and embrace it and be one of the folks who's leading it. When I say it's the AOL days of AI, one of the things that I think is so great about that is that AOL doesn't exist anymore. Prodigy, CompuServe, Pets.com. I don't know. I don't know your age of your readers, or your listeners. Even companies like Yahoo are a shell of themselves. But if you would have asked me 20 something years ago if AOL would not exist in any way, I would have told you it's crazy. We don't even know if it's open AI, but that's how much opportunity is here. Amazon was founded in 1993, right? That's feels like so young when you think about just how much has happened in that time frame. And one of the things that I think is one of the greatest interviews with Jeff Bezos. He said the hardest thing that he did in Amazon was raising his second round. He raised $2 million, I think it was, and he went around and he had to ask 20 plus people for checks. And he said I think he said he asked 120 people give him checks. You know what was so hard? He would walk in the door, and the first thing they say is, "What's the internet?" What is the internet? You want me to cut you a check? And all those people apparently did very well with their 20 and $100,000 checks. But we're at
Yeah.
that point right now where we have a lot of people who just don't know not only the impact, but the possibility of the change. And this is an opportunity to jump on that bandwagon and create the next Amazon, be part of the next Amazon. And that to me, that's exciting. So I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
answered your question. I might have rambled a little bit. I apologize.
No, it's all golden nuggets, my friend. Golden nuggets. I'm thinking the copier. I have friends that sold copiers. Well, there are no more copiers anymore. We use our phones now, our iPads and stuff. Perfect scenario. I love that. Just going to be different, people. It's going to be different jobs. That's all. It's not like if we have 100 million people working in America, it's going to drop down to 20 million in 10 years. No, it's probably going to just change. We're coming to the end here. I'm going to ask this of you. I got to bring part 2 back. We got to bring you back because you are just a wealth of knowledge. You willing to come back?
Of course, I would love to come back.
Yeah,
I'd love to
no
come
pressure, but I knew he would. I kind of intuitively knew.
back.
I got a couple questions to end with. One, what's the future of Jason?
I'm always trying to figure that out. I'm always trying to reinvent myself. As you heard, right now, I'm helping my clients. I'm helping companies understand this moment, and I'm helping them to embrace AI, teach their teams to embrace AI, and understand how they can use it to scale themselves and make the work that they deliver better. And I'm also trying to help them figure out where they can solve that XY problem, solving X and then freeing teams to do Y. And Y means unlocking revenue and doors in ways that I'm excited to see.
That's beautiful. Well, let's end with a fun question. Well, this was all fun, but this is a personal question. So I've reserved a table at a restaurant for you. So there's going to be 3 empty chairs. You're going to sit in one of them, of course. Who would you invite, whether dead or alive, to talk to get to know, to learn from? And what food does Jason order for the table?
The latter part of that is the easy one because I think it's going to be some delicious steaks going all around. The steak and potatoes, man, 100%. I'm from New Orleans, so if it's not steak and potatoes, we're definitely going with something, a little gumbo or something Creole.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say gumbo. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the thing with gumbo is that no gumbo is as good. Like it's grandma and dad's gumbo is the best gumbo. So I don't know if you get it at a restaurant. That's the thing, unless we're in New Orleans. Uh, my who I think would be someone like the weirdest, kookiest group of people to get together. Um, um, I would love to have s- someone like a Bill Gates and a Steve Jobs. I would, you know, that's already 2 seats, and I already said that. And you know who I'm always really interested in, who I would love to talk and have a conversation about, with is Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. I don't know what it is about Mr. Rogers, but like he's just one of the most unique men to have ever lived. So those are the 3, and I don't know what that conversation would sound like. That sounds like a weird group right there at the table. So
Yeah,
good luck.
he'd freak out with that sweater, thinking, what's these tech guys talking about? What, a cell phone? It's crazy.
Mhm.
Oh
Steve
my
Jobs
God.
might yell at him. I don't know.
Yeah. Great point. I love it.
Mhm.
Jason, I got to thank you, one, for taking the time to be on the show. I appreciate it so much. But being a blessing, being awesome, and giving us the feedback of AI that I wanted to hear myself, and I hope the audience has picked up. I know people are listening, want to reach out to you or connect with you. How can they do that?
My website, jasonperry.com. It's a great place to go. Please subscribe to my newsletter, Thoughts on Tech and Things. You can also find a link to my book there. And my website for my company, Perry Labs, perrylabs.io.
And he looks like a mad labber, a mad scientist. That's what I was thinking, which I love. And by the way, audience, I'm going to do the newsletter because this is powerful. I'm going to write his book. So email me if you bought his book. I'm buying it right after here. So I want to hear from some of you. Buy the book, because if you want to learn about AI, it's easy with a book and it's fairly inexpensive. So thanks again, Jason, so much. Audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's your homework at the end here. Here's why. These podcasts are gifts, and you're listening to this one and you go, my friend who doesn't know anything about AI, will you share this link with them? What a gift. They're going to learn. He simplified AI so even anybody could understand it. Now, you don't need to know everything about it, but understand the passion, the power, and what we could do with it, how it could change your life. You've just impacted people. We started a show with impact. Let's impact them with podcast links. It doesn't have to be mine. It could be others. But if this show resonates with you and this channel, please go ahead and subscribe. With that being said, me and Jason want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great AI day today. Talk to you soon.